Welcome to livingpianos.com. I'm Robert Estrin with a really rich subject today, when Mozart sounds like Beethoven. Now you might be thinking, Mozart sounds like Beethoven? They're completely different personalities, even though they lived around the same time. You think of the fire and the passion of Beethoven and the elegance and the sweetness of Mozart. Well, when the heck does Mozart sound like Beethoven? Well, here's an interesting fact for you. Mozart wrote very, very few pieces in the minor keys. Most of his works are in the major keys. But the few pieces that he wrote in the minor are among his greatest works. Now, certainly he wrote many, many great works in the major keys. But you think about his 40th Symphony, the G minor symphony. Or his K466 D minor concerto, such a great work. So there are just a handful of works that he wrote in the minor keys. And indeed, it sounds a lot more like Beethoven. And I have a way of proving it to you today. First, a brief theory lesson, and then you'll understand what I'm about to do for you will blow your mind. Honestly, it's a very cool thing. And the brief theory lesson is major intervals inverted become minor intervals. Now that's an interesting subject into itself, and I'm going to demonstrate this. Major intervals means that the top note is found in the major scale of the bottom note. So for example, in C major, if you played C to D, that's a major second. Now if you invert that, now we have a minor seventh, because if we play a D major scale, but that becomes minor. Now let's do the same thing. Go to a third. C major once again, the third note is an E. Invert that. Now we have a minor sixth. How can I tell? Because C is not the sixth note of an E major scale. And this is true, really, of all major intervals. Inverted become minor. So here's what I'm going to do for you. And thanks to technology, I'm going to be able to show you something really fascinating. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play just the exposition of the famous Mozart C major sonata K545. And then with the help of my computer, I'm going to invert it. So everything's going to be upside down. Whatever notes went up are going to go down. What that's going to effectively do is take this piece in the major and turn it into a whole other piece in the minor. Wait till you hear it. You're going to be really surprised. So here's the original, what Mozart actually wrote. All right, so that is what Mozart wrote. Now, with the magic of the computer, I'm going to invert it. So everything from C3 here that goes up will go down, and everything that from down here will go up. The whole keyboard will be switched around. And listen to what happens to this music. wouldn't even believe it's the same piece. It's all exactly the same notes and rhythms played right, the same thing, except reversed. And you hear the minor characteristic, and it sounds angry and a little bit more like Beethoven than Mozart, doesn't it? To really exemplify this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go downstairs on my beautiful 7-foot semi-concert grand, and I'm going to play the first movement of 2 different sonatas, both in C minor, one by Mozart, one by Beethoven, and I'm not going to tell you which one is which, and I want you to listen to these 2, and I'm very interested in your impressions of this, and if you can guess which one is Mozart and which one is Beethoven. Hope you enjoy this. So, I bet you're all wondering and guessing which one is which. Now, some of you may already know these works, and some of you might be able to tell. But if you have in your head which one is which, the first piece I played was Beethoven's Sonata in C minor, Opus 10, number 1. That's right, the first piece was Beethoven. The second one was Mozart, K457, Sonata in C minor, one of his later sonatas, although Mozart didn't write really late works because he died so young, unlike Beethoven, who had tremendous range in his compositions from early to middle to late. But listen how there's fire in that Mozart that's evocative of Beethoven, much more so than pieces in the major. So that is one element that makes Mozart sound more like Beethoven. Very interested to see how all you did out there in your guesses. If you didn't know either of these works before, I wonder how many of you got it right. Let me know in the comments below, and you can always email me as well. Thanks again for joining me. Robert Estrin here at livingpianos.com, your online piano resource with lots of content here. And for the special people who have joined my Patreon, even more premium content. Thanks again for joining me. We'll see you next time.